Hello YouTube. So this is definitely going to be a different video than what I'm usually making, especially because, typically it's about One Piece and it's a bit more upbeat, but today is going to be about Dragon Ball and more specifically the unfortunate passing of Akira Toriyama. We heard last night that he had passed away due to a blood clotting in his brain. Essentially, he was, exact details, you can look them up. I won't go over them. But he unfortunately passed. So I want to make this video now because I really couldn't do it last night because I didn't find out until like midnight my time because I wasn't online much, or like I wasn't on media stuff. I was doing other stuff. So I want to make it now and talk about the impact that Akira Toriyama has had on my life because despite the fact that I am a One Piece guy, I wouldn't be the One Piece guy, as big of a One Piece fan as I am, if it wasn't for Dragon Ball. If it wasn't for Dragon Ball, I never would have gone into anime. It was my first anime, whether it was like a video game of Dragon Ball sagas back on the GameCube. I played that all the time with my brother. We enjoyed it. We loved it. I think it's still a great game. I know it doesn't really hold up, but I do still think that it's one of the better games just because of the nostalgia I have with it. And then I also remember owning a VHS tape, and it was just the tape. It was no cover, and I think literally just written on it was Dragon Ball. Like I didn't know what it was other than Dragon Ball. And I know that, it was like the weirdest thing to me because my mindset is Dragon Ball sagas, which is, the Z and stuff. But then I see Goku and everyone's going, oh, it's Goku, it's Goku. And then, he's like this big, which the weirdest thing to me. And I don't find out until, all this time later that it's just like one of the original movies, Blood Ruby, I believe, where like the vampire prince or something kidnaps Bulma. But yeah, that was like one of the first things I saw was just Kid Goku beating up a vampire, which never made sense to me until years later when I find out what it is. And in high school I read all of Dragon Ball and then read all of Dragon Ball Z as well, just because my library had all of them. I mean, as you can see, I have an anime shirt. I even actually was wearing a different outfit this morning, but I decided to change my outfit just to really represent how much, even hard to tell, but just how much Dragon Ball has been a part of my life. I have a lot of apparel for it. I'm even wearing anime, like Dragon Ball socks. I won't show those, but like it's been a part of my life for so much. And if it wasn't for Dragon Ball being a part of it, and then, I kind of started falling off, and then Team 4-Star appeared with their version of Dragon Ball, and it brought me back into anime, and because of that, it actually has helped me a lot. It made me friends in high school. I got a date because of it. I was dating somebody because we were both anime fans. But I've met a lot of people because of Dragon Ball, just Dragon Ball alone, not even just talking about anime overall, just Dragon Ball formed so many friendships and has, taught me so many lessons, right? I'm sure it has taught a lot of people, most people will say, everybody has a Goku in them, everybody will have a Frieza to overcome, a Krillin to have their back, and a Vegeta to, push you further, right? And it's true. It's interesting because even though I don't really have a lot of people close to me, it's still always that mindset of somebody, you have to keep persevering even without something there. It's just that need, And I've gotten that because of Dragon Ball. It's so important to me that when I got to college, my English teacher started saying, you don't have anything specific to write about, just this is the general thing you need to tell us about. And then, it's like kind of like tell us about yourself and what you've learned from media. And I chose Dragon Ball and Pokemon, but more so Dragon Ball and how much the effect of, people like Krillin and Vegeta and Gohan. Gohan was a large factor for me being, as a younger kid, being a lot smaller than everybody else, kind of being a little short-tempered, and then seeing, this is what Kid Gohan was, and then seeing how he grew up to be, more calm, and how he, learned to control his anger, and how he became a scholar, and how, I really related to that, to being a, short-tempered kid who, eventually, I'm not saying I'm a scholar, but I've certainly have learned better to control my anger. I definitely still have issues, but it's definitely with watching Gohan and seeing all of that stuff kind of has helped kind of teach me how to properly vent it, not putting it out on other people, even though I have, and I'm apologize for that, of course. But it's it's gonna be bizarre without him, because it's odd. Like I've never really understood the thought of like, oh, a celebrity dies and then I like feel something for it, because like I've never met them. They don't, like how would they have like actually affected my life? It's like you've just been in a movie that I've seen a couple of times or something like that. But now, seeing like when Chris Ayres died, who was the English voice actor of, he was the English voice actor of Frieza. Sorry, it's just he's the English voice actor of Frieza, which when I saw that, it was, it kind of hurt. And then also when the English voice actor of Josuke, Billy Kametz, I believe, when he unfortunately passed as well, it was, it is that weird feeling of like, oh, this is the feeling. And now Toriyama passing, like, I'll be 100% honest, I genuinely cried last night and this morning seeing, when I first saw he died last night, and then, as I went on TikTok and Twitter and all these, social medias and stuff, and seeing everyone else's reactions, and, big YouTubers and just friends of being like, this was my childhood, this is who I grew up with, not with him, but with everything he's created, and now that's it. We won't get to see, like, he won't be around for Daimo, he won't be there to see the new one, Sand, I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head, but the Sand one, which, that looks really good, and now he's gone. And, I mentioned, multiple things with why I wouldn't be, here making One Piece, but, I spoke about it on TikTok a bit about, well, whether or not you agree on whether he is the best mangaka of all time, it is probably undoubtable that he is the most influential of all time. Whether it's, growing up to have more manga artists literally just go into drawing manga because of him, like One Piece. Oda has said several times that a large inspiration for him was Toriyama, was Dragon Ball. So I wouldn't be making all my One Piece content if it wasn't for the OG here. So I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have had all the other anime that we've all gotten to enjoy over these years because of one man who just simply put a pen on a page, right? And now he's told a brilliant story, even with people, even with people kind of, I don't want to say messing with him, but his editor Cress during like the Android saga, all that and that issues. So it's just like, just the story he told and how much influence he's had on people in Japan, but then over Western media, because you see stuff like, as far back as I can remember, there was Codename Kids Next Door, which was like early 2000s, like 2000, I think it was like 2002 or something was it when it first started. But there was a scene where Number 4 turns Super Saiyan against I think it's like the kids from down the block or something is what they're called. Is these group of 5 siblings who like fuse together to create this Frieza looking, like third form Frieza looking monster. And like as far back as that, as early 2000s, Western media was referencing Dragon Ball because that's just how large and influential it is. And now all the way to modern times, we're still getting cartoons with references to anime, and kids growing up nowadays don't just like see that, because I'm sure like me in like the early 2000s, I mean I knew it because of the game, but I'm sure there's a lot of kids who saw that and kid in K and D and was just like, that's cool. But now like there are kids who saw like the Amazing World of Gumball, when Gumball is just screaming and he goes Super Saiyan for a bit. There are people who see that and they're like, oh yeah, I just get that reference. That isn't like a thing in the show. No, that's referencing another piece of media. That's just how large Dragon Ball has actually become at this point. It's no longer just the story of a Saiyan who was found his way to Earth. It's now the story of how this Saiyan who found his way to Earth has saved the world in the manga and in a way in the real world, with just how much he has done, with all the influence to other pieces of media, to other people, to the whole thing of Mexico and all that meme, which if you don't know, you should look that up. That's hilarious stuff. But yeah, it's undoubtable to know that there will always be a void that is missing with the unfortunate passing of Toriyama, but we do know that his legacy will be continued. We don't know exactly if it's perfectly what Toriyama would have wanted, But since Toriyama chose these people to be his successor, only great things, because he chose them, right? So it's kind of that Goku and the Saiyan saga part, you know. I can kind of see him up in the clouds, like how Goku was to Gohan, saying like, I ain't coming back. I can kind of see Toriyama up there, saying like all these mangaka and stuff, and to us, I ain't coming back, but don't worry, it'll still be good. You still have people there who, when the next big threat, when the next big enemy needs to come out, there is people here. So we'll miss you, Toriyama.